Thank you very much. And we actually, Jason Marshall has a list of the schools that I was on the waiting list. So if we could have Holy Cross and BC come over after. Harvard just sent us a letter asking me for the name and number of my guidance counselor. They didn't even put me on the waiting list. Since Harvard and MIT are not here, I won't talk about in lieu of taxes, and I won't address the Dover Amendment this morning. So we'll avoid that. Thank you for the brief background, and I think it is important that some of when you're mayor of Cambridge, there isn't a morning that you don't wake up and think about the potential for partnerships that exist within your own community. It's just impossible to escape that thought process. And some of my greatest moments as mayor were working collaboratively with the universities in the city, each playing a different role. I really felt that I struck a good balance between expectation and appreciation. And I was really happy to find that balance, because that's where I thought we needed to be. And we were able to I initiated the first comprehensive summer school for at-risk children in our city with Harvard, the Cambridge Harvard Summer Academy, and had to play the role of negotiating with the teachers union. The ed school wanted complete hiring authority, so it was also an early entry into sort of union issues and some of what you hear about frequently as public officials trying to improve public education through private partnerships, how you overcome those challenges, the interior challenges that we face. But it's become the first comprehensive at-risk summer program Cambridge has ever had, and Harvard was absolutely instrumental in that partnership, and allowing Harvard the ability to make those decisions, I think, is what makes it a special program. I worked with President Vest at the time. President Rudenstein was president of Harvard. President Vest attempting to engage MIT more in a rebuilding of our technical program, which amazingly, a city which I believe is the life science capital of the world, had a failing technical education program. And as mayor, rebuilt that program and engaged MIT, not as much as I would have liked, but engaged MIT in that rebuilding. And now we have a much more successful biomedical program and engineering program, and a far more contemporary tech program that is more suited to the current life science environment in our city, and had a great relationship with Margaret McKenna, who I quite frequently used as the bad guy. We have meetings with the school committee, and as only President McKenna could do, she can write in and say, how many teachers have you let go of this year? How many administrators? And I could sit back and say, great question, Madam President, for the school committee to answer. So those relationships were pivotal for me. It's very clear that the infrastructure, the private infrastructure in Massachusetts, is absolutely critical. And you should know that I'm also an assistant football coach, which it doesn't mean I spend a lot of time looking at game tapes, but it's the way in which I'm able to become a makeshift guidance counselor. And I spend an enormous amount of my time working with students. And in Cambridge, most of our football players are kids from public housing with very little money. And so I spend a lot of time giving guidance, and have been known to drive a student or two out to campuses for interviews and personally assist with financial aid, maybe to your dismay on occasion. But it gives me, I think, up-to-date understandings of how our guidance system is working at our K-12 schools, and how students perceive different institutions. So the balance, certainly in my attack in helping to reform our public higher education system, has to work hand in hand with what you folks do. And I'm incredibly cognizant of the fact that you educate half of our students in the Commonwealth, at least. I'm very cognizant of the fact that you've done an amazing job recruiting, retaining, and graduating minority students. That's a percentage that I remind the publics of very frequently. I've been very clear that I'm not altogether happy with the numbers that I see in our public higher education institutions. Now, the response could be, that's because you folks are doing such a great job. That's not an acceptable response for me. So I think it's important that we use you folks as a standard when it's appropriate.